feel when you're interrupted? Have a think about that for a moment. How do you feel when you're interrupted? Annoyed. Stop interrupting me, Jeff. Yes, annoyed. How else do we feel when we're interrupted? Upset. Angry. Angry, yes. Coming from Sydney, driving in Sydney traffic, we tend to be known as a bit more aggressive drivers. And when someone cuts in front of you, yes, Jesus, settle me down. When they interrupt, I've got to get to here. Don't you know how important my life is? I've got to go do the milk. My children need my milk. Don't get in my way. Don't interrupt me. Adriel gave me permission to give this example, but I love my Cronulla Sharks. My son said, we're not here to talk about football. He's keeping me on track. And every time I sit down to watch the football, I should be able to say she interrupts me, but she doesn't. But I am very aware at times when I am watching the football that she wants to interrupt me because she's got a question and Ryan's sitting still and I need to know. And she wants to interrupt me. And the stereotype would be, every time I sit down and watch the football, she interrupts me. She wants to have a conversation, and maybe once upon a time she did. But she's amazing. But isn't that the stereotype of interruption? When I'm right in the middle of doing something, someone wants to have a conversation with you. My children. Adrian and I will be having a deep argument or fight or discussion or trying to solve the world's problems, or at least ours anyway. And the boys come up and they put their hands on my shoulders and they're like, Dad, Mum. And I'm like, oh, be like Jesus. Yes. I'm bored. Really? That's what you had to interrupt me with, being bored? And so quite often we're challenged by interruptions, our social life. I've got it all planned out. Where are we going? Then something happens. I don't have time for this flat tire. I don't have time for this phone call. How do you feel when you were interrupted? All right, boys, we're moving on from that question, so no more interruptions. Hang on. There we go. So this is a gorgeous little place. This place is called Bend, Oregon. This is where my wife grew up, most of her childhood life. If you go to Bend, Oregon, this is some of the images that you'll be faced with. Very difficult, horrible view to look at, to wake up at. What's it called again, sweetie? These mountains? The Cascade Ranges. So that's only just a very small, a very big picture of this beautiful place. This is a park in Bend, Oregon, and it's called Drake Park. And I'm going to leave that picture there for a while because I'd like to share a story with you. And that story is a time that I had to wrestle with God. And the wrestle that I had with God, this is the picture that I'm looking out at as I'm sitting on the park bench. It's a very King David-like place when he writes. You feel like King David would sit there and write a psalm, wouldn't you? You know, I sit by the brook. I say, woe is me, where is God? And I look out and I see the trees and I see the water and, it feels like a very psalm type place. So I'm going to try and set the scene a little bit for you for this story. So Adrian and I have been in missions for a number of years now, and we feel like the Lord had called us on from the location we're at in Townsville. And we were to go and to have a sabbatical. So we took a period of time off. And when we got there, we spoke to the Lord, and we felt like the Lord said, don't ask me what is next. Just enjoy the 6 months, relax, allow me to minister to you. And in 6 months' time, then you can ask me. So 6 months is come. And I'm like, all right, Lord, time to get some answers. What are we doing with our lives? Where are we going? Are we to stay in missions? Are we to go to a job? Am I to go into college? What am I meant to do? And so I thought, got the perfect location to sit down and be in the beauty of the Lord, in His creation, to be able to have a quiet time to wait on the Lord. And here I am. So I'm sitting here with the intentions of looking out that God's going to speak to me and go, thus says the Lord, this is what you as a family are going to be doing in this next season. And I could run home to Adriel and go, the Lord spoke to me. I know what we're going to do. So as a good Christian who'd learned to do quiet times really well, you know, I am a missionary at this point, a very important person. And I'm sitting down there and I'm praying, Lord, what do you want to do with us next? And as I'm sitting there asking this question, I get this sense in my spirit. And there's a young lady over there with her 2 children just sitting on a mat, a blanket, something like that, just enjoying the beauty of the park. And I feel like the Lord said, go over and speak to her. And I said, okay, Lord, but I'm not here for that. I'm here for you. So please tell me, what am I doing next? And as I go back and forth with, Lord, speak to me, the Lord's saying, Ryan, go speak to that person. No, that's not what you're speaking to me about. It's about what's next. And so I'm going backwards and forwards and having this mental spirit kind of challenge, wrestle with the Lord. After a while, I'm getting really quite frustrated. I'm a missionary. I've been teaching children and young people and adults how to do quiet times. Surely I can quiet my spirit and quiet my mind and hear what you have for me. Try it again. Go talk to that person. God, I'm not here for that person. This is my imagination. This is just me being a Western busy person that can't keep his mind still. I'm so sorry, Lord. Forgive me that I'm not hearing you. Please tell me what's next now. Go talk to that person. All right, I'm done. Obviously, we're not going anywhere with this conversation. The Lord's not speaking to me. I can't control my emotions. I can't control my imaginations. So I get up and I'm quite disillusioned. I'm quite upset with myself and I start heading home. It's about a 15, 20-minute walk back to the house that we're living at. As I'm walking back, I'm continually having this wrestle. Go back and talk to this lady. No, this is my imagination. I'm not going to do this. And so it goes on and on and on and on. I'm nearly halfway home. And what you need to understand in this point of the story is this conversation that I'm having is no longer internal. It's external. I'm having it out aloud as I'm walking down the road going home. Ryan, it's just your imagination. It's just go home, just move on. And I'm having it aloud, and I get to this busy intersection, and I stand at the intersection, and I'm wanting to step out to cross the road in between the traffic, and I'm making sure I look the left direction, not whichever direction. I'm probably doing this because we're in America. And I'm like, no, just turn around and go back to this lady. So I kind of turn around. I start to walk back to the lady, and they're like, no, this is silly. It's my imagination. I'm going forward. And I'm talking out aloud as I'm talking to you. Could you imagine what people were thinking about me when I was walking past? They're like, I have serious concerns for this young man. He does not seem like he's handling life very well. And I wasn't. And I finally got to the point where I was standing on the road just going, and I just throw my hands up. All right, Lord, I'm just going to go back. It's not you. But I'll go back because I just want a clear conscience. So I turn around and I walk back to the park. And as I walk back to this picture of the park, I see this young lady and now her partner's with her and the kids off in the distance walking away. And as I looked into the distance, I was filled with remorse. I missed an opportunity, and I knew it. I was like, ah. So as a good Christian, as a good missionary, I thought the best course of action right now would be to blame God. So I blamed him. You knew, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, and I'm walking back home, accusing God, blaming God. He's just graciously listening to me. When I finished airing all my blame, as I finished nailing my blame of Jesus on the cross, on him, I breathe. And as I breathe, in that moment, Jesus doesn't rebuke me. He doesn't condemn me. He says to me something that has changed my life. And it's a question, and the question was, Ryan, are you interruptible? And in that moment, I didn't feel horrible. I didn't feel pathetic. I didn't feel like a huge sinner and, man, I must be one step away from entering hell's gates. But instead, I felt loved. I felt affirmed. I felt encouraged. Only the way that Jesus can do that. And from that moment, my life has been changed. And on a day-to-day basis, still to this day, and this is about 8 years ago, I still ask myself this question: are you interruptible, Ryan? I have to be honest, some days I'm really good at it. Not amazing, but good at it. But other days I'm just downright terrible at it. Just so consumed by self and the world and everything that I've got to do in it. But it's one of those things that I'm going to every day do my very best saying, God, am I interruptible for you? And how do I posture myself in that place? I want to share with you a favorite Bible verse of mine. But before we do, I want you to think about some of the interruptions that we find in the Bible. Let me just I don't want to list them all, but I'll list a few. What about Moses and the burning bush? Do you reckon him walking along with his sheep, his goats, and whatever else he had, he's walking along and he suddenly goes, a burning bush? You don't see that every day. But he go investigate, and then the Lord speaks to him and radically changes the course of his life. Do you reckon he was interrupted? Do you think he's like, oh, I'll just kind of look after the sheep and goats, and one day I'm going to run over a burning bush, and that's when I have to start following what God has for me? I don't think he was thinking about that at all. I think he was quite shocked. Burning bush? What is going on here? And then boom. What about Gideon? Gideon is interrupted by an angel. And the angel gives him a word from the Lord. And his response back to the angel is, look, dude, my clan is the least of all clans. And in my clan, which is the least of all clans, I'm the least in my clan. So he's trying to communicate to the angel like, I am the least of the least. Yet the Lord wanted to use him. And then when we read the story of Gideon, he does some incredible work as the Lord leads him. I reckon his life was interrupted. He was not expecting an interruption. You're Jonah and the whale. You're David out in the fields, forgotten about by his own dad as potential king. The Lord says, nah, none of them. I want this little scrawny guy. Come here. And they anoint him as king. Mary, she had a slight disruption, didn't she, to her life? There was a little interruption. Excuse me, young lady, you're now going to be the mother of the Son of God. I reckon that was an interruption. The disciples, fishermen, they didn't cut it to become rabbis. So what am I going to do with my life? I'm just going to continue on being fishermen. And then a gentleman says, hey, put your nets down, put your taxes down, put your money down, put your life down, follow me. You reckon their lives were radically changed? You reckon Peter woke up one morning going, you know what, I'm looking forward to following after this guy that everyone laughs at and rejects and puts him off and kills him, but I'll still follow him and then later probably be persecuted and killed myself. Do you reckon that's the plan that Peter had for his life? No, he's thinking about being a fisherman. And then Jesus interrupts him and says, I've got different plans for you. You got Paul on the road to Damascus, and the list goes on and on and on. The story I want to share with you is from Luke 22. Oh, no, I don't. It's from Luke 19. 22 comes after 19. And it's the story of Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus is a tax collector, despised and hated by the people around because he takes their money. And the story is that Jesus is walking through Jericho at the time. And there's a great crowd around Jesus. You see, by this point in the story, the word had got out about this guy called Jesus. And that maybe he is the Messiah. But even if they don't believe he's the Messiah, he's doing some pretty crazy things. Delivering demons from people, healing the sick, claiming to be the Son of God. And so the word's getting out and people are starting to believe and excited. And so crowds are gathering around Jesus. And so, he's walking down the roads and all these wanting their attention. Maybe the sick, maybe the paralyzed, maybe some of the teachers and leaders of the community going, who is this guy I keep hearing about? Some of them are probably plotting his death still. How do we catch him out? How do we show that he's a fraud? Yet others are going, I've never been able to see, and I've heard that you heal the blind, would you come and heal me? And so all these people are yelling out, Jesus, and going after him, and he's walking along. The crowd's so big that the scriptures say Gideon, who is vertically challenged, not Gideon, Zacchaeus, who is vertically challenged, climbs a tree to be able to look over the crowd to get a glimpse of this one that heals, this one that he's hearing stories about, going, what's he look like? Who is he? What we need to understand about Jesus is this moment, is that he's walking through Jericho, he's fully aware of he's about to walk into. He's coming to his last days before he starts to suffer for you and I. He's very aware that he's about to be ridiculed and mocked and killed. I don't know about you, but if I found out that some of you didn't like my preaching and you were conspiring to go, let's kill Ryan, I reckon that would create in me just a little bit of angst, wouldn't you? I'd be going, oh boy, someone's reaching for their purse. I'm like, oh, is this it? I'll be out having a cup of coffee going, Leon, could you sip my coffee first just to check it's not poisoned? I think there'd be a rather stressful moment if I was aware that someone didn't like what I was on about and they wanted to kill me. And this is what Jesus is carrying. But not only is he aware that someone's going to kill him, but he's also going to be mocked. He's going to be ridiculed. He's going to be tortured. He's going to go through pain that is just undescribable unless you've been through it yourself. And so Jesus is walking with this burden on him. And we know that Jesus is stressed out by this because if we go down to 22, Luke 22, this is what Luke writes, observing of Jesus. And it says, Jesus prayed, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but your will be done. Can you hear that? Take it away from me. I don't want to do this. This is hard, but not what I want, what you want. And if you're not convinced at this point that Jesus is stressed out a little bit worried about what's about to happen, he then says, then Luke then says, an angel from heaven appeared to him to strengthen him. Why does he need to be strengthened? Because God can see the weight of what he is carrying. the burden in which he's carrying, going, I can't do this in my own strength. Can't you take this cup? Not me, but you, Lord. And so God brings an angel to minister to him. But wait, there's still more to prove that he's under duress. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. We know that that's actually possible, that we can be under so much stress that the little vessels in our body can start to burst, and that if you're under enough stress that you actually can sweat blood. And Luke is a doctor, and he's looking at Jesus going, oh my gosh, this guy is so under duress that it's as if he's sweating blood. So we get to see the condition of the Lord of when he's walking through Jericho, when crowds are after him and just confronting him, heal me, you're a liar, you're a fraud, raise my son from the dead, and all these requests in the back of his mind. I'm going to be tortured, I'm going to be killed, I'm going to go through incredible pain and suffering, but not what I want, Lord, but what you want. And as he's walking, something within him goes, tree, and sees this man. It says, Zacchaeus, come down, let's go to KFC and have lunch. And so Jesus and Zacchaeus go and have lunch together. What just happened? Jesus was interrupted. So Jesus is walking along and he sees Zacchaeus. Why Zacchaeus? I don't know. But God had something for him. God wanted to do something for him. God saw something in his heart that only God could. And the Spirit of the Lord was communing with the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Jesus. So Spirit of the Father God is communing with the Spirit of Jesus. And in Jesus' Spirit, something causes him to go, Zacchaeus, the Lord has something for you. Come, let's go have lunch. Let's fellowship. I'll be interrupted by all the things that are going on in my life because the God has a message for you. And what was that message? Kindness. Through that kindness, we see Zacchaeus go, I want to follow after you, Jesus. And not only does he repent, not only does he confess that he has done the wrong thing by taking money that isn't his from people around him, but he also then restores that by paying back 3 times, I think it was, what he had taken from people. He's so impacted by Jesus' kindness that he restores 3 times what he stole from people. What a crazy story of interruption. See, interruption doesn't happen when we feel like it. Interruption doesn't happen when our schedules allow it to happen. Interruption comes at inconvenient times and wrong places and places when we're not expecting it. But God says this in 2 Chronicles, for the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those hearts who are fully committed to him. See, God is looking throughout the earth going, who do I strengthen? Who wants to hear about me? Who needs me? And he's looking for people that he can strengthen that are not restricted by their schedules, who are not overcome by the pressures of life. He's looking for people that he can say, can I interrupt you so I can build my kingdom? Not sure if you can see that image very well. That N, for whatever reason, is meant to be interruption. But technology is not working with me. But in those dominoes, I've just written down words like routines, commitments, responsibilities, church life, activities, business. And that little figure just going, can you stop doing that and listen to me for a moment? Why did I have Barry so wonderfully read out the Good Samaritan this morning? Well, guys, when I read that story and I look at the figures and I try to, the images of these people, and I try to identify myself with them, I like to think I'm the Samaritan. But with that story that I shared with you this morning, I wasn't the Samaritan. See, I wonder if Jesus told this story, this parable, to those that are listening for a reason. You see, the Jewish people are gathered around Jesus to hear a story, and in their mind, they think the Jews are going to be the hero of the story. Yet Jesus, a Jew himself, says, no, you're not the hero. The Samaritan's the hero in the story. And we all want to be the hero, right? But in that story I shared this morning, I was not the Samaritan. And many times in my life, I have not been the Samaritan. And so we look at the priest and we look at the Levite, and you know what? In the church today, we give them a really bad rap. But at the end of the day, they are good people. They truly desire to love God and to obey God and do the commands that God had led them. They were generally good people. For those who are getting a little bit tired, I'm wrapping up, so hold on with me. I've just been told time is up. Can you bear with me for a few more moments as I bring it to a close? Yeah? Because the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like for some of us, if not all of us, God wants to interrupt us. See, the interesting thing about these priests and about the Levites is they're good people trying to love God as best as they could, but their life was so full that when they walked down the road, I don't think they saw this beaten up person and went, "Ugh, blood, I hate blood." Or they looked at that person and went, "Well, you probably deserved it." I think they probably were drawn to compassion, but the confronting thing for them was, I am so busy doing other good things, I don't know if I've got time to help you. Maybe someone else could. And the next person set aside for the work of the Lord comes along and says, I'd like to help you, too busy, sorry, got too many things to go, and on he goes off his way. Yet the Samaritan looks at this person and compassion comes upon him and says, how can I help him? Gets completely interrupted. What gets interrupted? His journey, his life, his finances, his time. But he knows enough to go, this is an important interruption in my day to take care of. I wonder how many of us like to think we're the Samaritan in this story. But so often we end up being the priest and the Levite, where our week, our days, our moments are so full of good church things, good life things, good responsibilities. But because our lives are so full, there's no space within our spirit where the Lord's Spirit communes with us to hear Him going, wait, I have an interruption for you. See, if we want to see God's kingdom come in Victor Harbor, we need to be a church. We need to be a people that can be interrupted by the Lord. It's not going to happen through programs. It's not going to happen through an evangelist. It's going to happen when you're buying eggs at the store because you remembered you had some guests over and you promised to make them an omelette, but you didn't have any eggs. So quickly I'll run down to the store and get some eggs, and I've got to run out and I've got to get back to my guests. And then the Lord says, stop and encourage the young person at the table there. Or if you go to Woolies, you run out and you go past that little coffee shop that we're all aware of, and we see someone there that we know. I haven't got time for it. And the Lord says, sit down and have a coffee with them. I can't, Lord. I've got guests. I've got things to do. I've got my table tennis ministry. And these things are important. I'm not saying they're not important. What I'm asking you is, are you interruptible by the Lord for the purposes of the Lord? And so, friends, I want to encourage us as I finish with a prayer for us. Are you interruptible? Because if we are, we don't need to worry about programs. We don't need to worry about all these things. God will build our community. And then we can put the programs in place to take care of them. We can put the things in place to make them feel like they belong. But it's each one of our responsibilities to wake up each morning as followers of Christ and say, am I interruptible for you today, God? And then go about our business continually asking, should you interrupt me right now? Are you trying to interrupt me today? And not feeling guilty, but being a person who says, I'm ready to be used by you. Can you close your eyes with me, please? Jesus, thank you. I love these people. I think they're amazing people. God, I believe that you have great purpose, great plans for every single one of these people in this church. And so, God, I want to ask for myself, but I want to ask for us as a community. Would you help us? Would you teach us to be a people that could be interrupted by you so that we can see your kingdom come on earth as it is in Victor Harbor? In Jesus' name, amen.